Well, the government's lifted its ban on live cattle exports to Indonesia, but placed the industry under increased regulation. Cattlemen say it'll take years for their trade to recover. But the lifting of the ban removes a distraction for the Gillard government as she prepares for the sales pitch of her political life on the carbon tax. From Canberra, here's our political correspondent, Tom Miggleton.
For weeks now, there have been two issues dominating the political agenda: the carbon tax and the live cattle trade ban. The government's been working to whittle that down to one.
What we're looking for is progressive reopening of the trade.
If this trade could have been resumed a day earlier, guess what? It would have been.
It's been a month since sickening pictures were broadcast on Four Corners of Australian cattle being brutalised in Indonesian abattoirs, forcing the government to impose the ban. It said it could last up to 6 months, but just 4 weeks later, the government's moving to allow exports with stricter conditions.
Of course, the next step is for our friends in Indonesia to issue import permits themselves. I'm still going to Jakarta because I'm sure we'll need to review the implementation of these arrangements.
He'll be in the Indonesian capital on the weekend.
Well, I'm sure that Minister Ludwig was very keen to get this trade going again. He'd done the work, and he certainly wouldn't have wanted Mr Rudd to get the credit following just a brief visit to Indonesia.
But the opposition's supporting the lifting of the ban.
What the Minister has actually done is to now allow the cattle to move to the good abattoirs with a closed-loop system. A closed-loop system was in place at the time the announcement was made, so in fact we've lost a month.
The Agriculture Minister stopped short of guaranteeing no animal would be harmed in Indonesian abattoirs.
It's a safeguard.
And says the government's done its bit to get Australian beef back on Indonesian plates.
So it is now up to the commercial operators to come forward, meet those supply chain assurance, and then start those consignments flowing.
The cattle industry's been calling for an immediate resumption of the trade.
This interruption is already reverberating, and it will reverberate for time to come.
The ban's caused a massive backlog of cattle earmarked for the Indonesian trade that'll take a long time to clear.
The trade hasn't resumed, it's simply a suspension has been lifted, so it's a signal of intent, and that's a good start. But clearly we are still facing financially, economically, environmentally and socially across Northern Australia the major challenges.
The Greens are outraged at the lifting of the ban and say the new export restrictions won't include the use of humane stun guns in Indonesian abattoirs.
We do not believe that Indonesia's ready to reopen the trade. The government cannot guarantee animal welfare standards. The minister's bowed to pressure. He's not looking after the best interests of Australian livestock.
So from animal rights supporters to northern graziers, no one's entirely happy with the state of affairs in the live cattle trade, but with its quick resumption of exports, the government's been seen to do something, and now it can focus on a much bigger prize, building support for its carbon tax. Tom Miggleton, Late